Okay, should we get going? Hi everyone, welcome back to part 2 of our Learn It Up Great Next Special. Last week we spoke about the negative trait of anger. Today we're going to look at something positive, and that is love. Who wants to fall in love? Wow, the excitement is palpable. If I have to. Do I really have to? Well, actually you do. And let's have a look in the Pasuk. We'll go to Vayikra. This is Parshat Kedoshim, and there's a fascinating Pasuk which needs to be understood, and we're going to double click on the last part of the verse. The Pasuk tells us, Lo tikom, don't take revenge. V'lo titor, and don't bear a grudge. What's that? What's bearing a grudge? My Rebbe used to tell me when I was a kid, even as an adult, this is the hardest mitzvah in the entire Torah. When we define it, you'll see why. Et bnei amecha, your people, v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. You should love each other like you love yourself. Ani Hashem, I am God. Okay, let's break this down. Let's double click on a few words over here. Tikom, nekama is revenge. What's revenge?
Getting back at someone who did something wrong to you.
Getting back someone who did something wrong to you? Says Rashi, I'll update Rashi's example. You lend someone something, right? Or you ask someone to lend you something and they decline, and they come to you the next day and want to borrow from you, and you're like, you don't lend me, I don't lend you. Revenge. Revenge? Can I borrow your car? No. Next day, come to you. Can I borrow your sweater? You don't let me your car. You don't get my sweater. Or you just say no without telling them why. That is nekama. Well, if that's nekama, hi guys, welcome. What is netira? Bearing a grudge. What's bearing a grudge? By the way, there are different. Some people say this is actually one avera. Revenge, bearing a grudge. Some say it's actually two separate mitzvot in the Torah. Negative mitzvot. Bearing a grudge and taking revenge. What's bearing a grudge? Anybody?
When you hold something against someone. When
you hold something against someone. So Rashi gives exactly the same answer. This is very unusual, by the way. Rashi says, you go to your friend, you're like, can I borrow? And they're like, no. And the next day they come to you and they, can I borrow? And you're like, I'm not like you. I lend things. And you give it to them. But you hold it in your heart, and you, I guess what you call passive aggressive. Do not hate your fellow in your heart. That's bearing a grudge. Trust me, that's really tough. All the time, you do stuff for people, but inside you're like, I don't want to do it. It makes, as I mentioned last week, 1,000 Pesachs cleanings, 1,000 Yom Kippur fastings easier than one occasion of not doing this particular Avera. Okay, then the same Pasuk, so it must be connected because the same Pasuk says you should love each other like you love yourself. And that's going to be the focus of today. Just for interest, it says, Ani Hashem, I am God. Hello? I mean, I am God. Of course you're God. God gives the Torah. Why precisely is it telling me I'm God? What? Oh, I forgot. Oh, I see that happened a few weeks back at Har Sinai. I forgot you're God. Why would it say Ani Hashem? Does it say that after every mitzvah? It doesn't say it too much.
Not too much, but sometimes.
Not sometimes. Why does it need to say I am God? What would I have thought? What's it come to tell me? And by the way,
Watching everything you're doing.
okay, but that would be true for anything, wouldn't it? Keep going, though. Keep going. It's got to be related to that. What will it be? I am God.
Like only God knows your intentions.
Now it gets interesting. I'm God. I know what you're thinking. I know whether you're taking revenge. I know if you love other people like you love yourself, or you're just acting falsely and you're being dishonest. I'm God. I know. And that is one of the principles of Jewish faith, according to the Rambam. The Rambam tells us one of the principles of Jewish faith is that God knows what we're thinking, which for some people is terrifying, and I find quite relieving because you can fool your family, and you can fool your friends, and you can fool your husband, but you can fool. You can even fool yourself. but you can't fool God. Right? You can't fool Hashem. So Ani Hashem, one interpretation is that's mentioned when it could be you're fooling yourself or other people, but you can't fool God. Make sense? You hear me, sisters? Marvelous. So what is this idea of V'ahavta Re'echa Kamocha? By the way, what could the verse have said? Love your neighbor. Period. Just love each other. Just go around Kimber. Go to JFK. Walk around Manhattan. Just hug random people. Don't do it. It's disgusting. But it could have told you to do that. But like, you know, you used to walk on the airport. When I grew up in the 1970s, you used to walk around. You used to be people in the airport trying to hug you and stuff, like the Hare Krishna, all these kind of people, you know? And you just wanted to punch them. But the Torah doesn't say that. It's giving you a very specific directive. Love your neighbor like you love yourself. What is your neighbor? When I was a kid, I always thought the person next door. I have actually a very nice neighbor. I'm actually eating by him Friday night, but I can't just be talking about him, right? Because he's nuts. Okay, let's see Onkelos. Onkelos, of course, was the Roman convert to Judaism whose words appear next to Hashem's words. You have Hashem's word. Every Chumash, you have the Torah. Underneath, you have Rashi. It's pretty impressive. But next to Hashem's word, you have Onkelos, a convert to Judaism. It's pretty epic, right? He must have been a very, very incredible individual. And he translates the Torah into Aramaic. And when you translate something, you're actually interpreting it as well. So he says, "Lo tkam v'lo titor, tavo levnei amecha, uterachem lechavrecha, kavatecha Hashem." He says, you should have compassion. What does it mean you should love other people like you? Be compassionate. Be nice to other people. Now, we all know Rabbi Akiva became obsessed with this one pasuk in the Torah. Rabbi Akiva, of course, he was unlearned for 40 years, learned Torah for 40 years, and then taught for 40 years. He died at the age of 120 at the hands of the Romans. And he said, oh, this mitzvah, this idea of V'ahavta Re'echa Kamocha, zeh klal gadol. As a kid, you sing it. Zeh klal gadol, gadol b'Torah. Remember that from yeshiva there?
Yeah.
Then you went to public school. Zeh klal gadol b'Torah. Amar V'ahavta Re'echa Kamocha. He says, that klal, what does a klal gadol mean? What do you mean it's a great principle? What, Shabbat's not great? Yom Kippur's not great? Tzedakah? Shemitah? I don't know, what else you want? Why is this particular mitzvah considered, oh, love it, oh, that's a great one? What does klal gadol actually mean?
It's like a foundation.
But these are questions, but these are not rhetorical. You can answer these questions.
It's like a foundation of Judaism.
What does that mean, it's a foundation? They're all foundations. We already mentioned one.
Yeah, I guess, but like everything stands on that.
Okay, you can say everything stands on it. I mean, that's actually correct. But say a little bit more specific. Many, many mitzvot from the Torah come from this one. In other words, you think you're doing one mitzvah when you do something nice to someone. Actually, you're doing a lot of things. You're doing a lot of things. Many other mitzvot come from this. When you keep Shabbat, you just keep Shabbat. I mean, it's a big thing, but that's about it, right? But if you do this, actually you're doing 20 mitzvot, 30 mitzvot, it's a klal gadol. There's a lot of klalim that are included in this one concept. By the way, does anyone know how to fulfill this mitzvah, by the way? It sounds good, doesn't it? Love other people like you love yourself. Get your guitar. Let's all sing a song. Love each other. That's what the Torah wants. Bad singing from a British rabbi? I don't think so. That's why I'm not a chazan or a singer. I would be a singer, by the way. How easy that job. I have to go, give a speech, give different ideas, take heckles and questions, and they get Shweki gets up there, ba 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 ba. 20 grand, please. I get to teach Torah. There's a fascinating story which you've all heard, but let's analyze it. It's a Gemara, and it follows on from this piece of Torah from Rabbi Akiva, and it's about Hillel and Shammai. Remember the story? Hillel and Shammai were approached by an individual. First of all, Shammai was approached, by a potential convert who said, "Teach me the entire Torah, standing on one foot." Now, when I picture, I thought he didn't mean standing on one foot. He means summarize all of Judaism for me. I want it all. Don't make it long. Tell me everything there is to know about Judaism. What does Shammai do? Anyone remember what he did? And heard this very famous Gemara. He took a stick. Actually, he took a ruler. Some say a foundation stick from the building, and he chased him out with a stick. And everyone thinks Shammai is very mean when they read this. Oh, what a mean person. you'll see he wasn't mean at all. He was a great tzaddik, but he was making a point. The convert then went to Beit Hillel, the Hillel house, like on college campuses, right? With Hillel. Said, teach me the Torah, standing on one foot. And he said, no problem. He said, whatever you hate, don't do to other people. That's the entire Torah. You don't like it, don't do it to them. Everything else is commentary. Go and study. Zil, go, Gemir, go study. Well, that was the answer. By the way, what happened to this convert, by the way? What happened to him? Anyone know? He converted. He did convert, actually. It worked. So Shammai kicked him out, and Hillel gave him this one piece of Torah, this Klal Gadol, and said, you know what? You don't like it, don't do it with other people. Couple of questions. Why does Shammai use a stick to chase him out? Why don't you just kick him out? The Gemara doesn't just mention pieces of information. There's obviously something very crucial and important. Was this guy being chutzpahdik? I thought he was being chutzpahdik. Like, teach me everything or I'm not interested. The rabbis say he wasn't. He needed something. We'll get to that as well. And finally, what did Hillel see in him that no one else saw? Okay, Fabi. And why did he do it in the negative? Why? Well, you hate, don't do it. Why didn't you just say love us be like you love yourself? A lot of questions. If we end the class there, we'd be in big trouble. But we won't, because I'm being paid by the hour. So let's keep going. The Kli Yakar says this convert, this Gentile, was really sincere. He was an emet person. So what did he want? What did he really want? He's like, it's going to be really difficult, like a Baal Teshuvah, to take on this whole Judaism thing. So many laws, so many mitzvahs, so many minhagim. It's tough. You know what? Along this journey, it's going to get very tough. Just give me one thing. One principle of Judaism that I can hold on to when things are really tough. When I'm struggling as a Jew, when everything is just going against me, give me one thing that's going to keep me on the right path. He said, I'll tell you what that is. And he held on to it, and it worked. And it worked, is what he says. The Kli Yakar says that. He wasn't literally standing on a foot. He was requested a method by which he could base all the commandments, a unifying principle. Just give me one idea, one bumper sticker. Give me one tweet that's going to basically, tweet me well. Tweet others like you want to be tweeted. Just give me something over here. That was a good one, man. I feel good. Give me something. And he said, this is what it's going to be. This is one thing that's going to keep you forever connected to remember all the other mitzvahs. That's why he became a convert. Let's go back to Shammai. What does Shammai do?
Stick.
Shammai what kind of stick did he take? He says he took a building stick. He's like, you want to found it? No. You can't have one thing that's going to keep you connected to every mitzvah. There's no such thing. There is no one unifying principle. Every mitzvah is special. Everything's important, and it's not going to work the way you're thinking. By the way, every machloket, every argument between Hillel and Shammai comes down to this one idea, by the way. Whether it's menorah, because we know that Hillel says you go from 1 to 8, remember that? And Shammai says everyone goes, you go 8 to 1, right? Can you get rid of it? It all comes down. There's a sefer I saw once many years ago that shows every machloket comes down to this principle. They had different ideas of Jewish life. It wasn't just, random stuff. Okay? So how do you do it? So the Sefer Chinuch, which gives the reasons for the mitzvah, says there's things you have to do. There's ways you should treat other people. And why does it say love as you like you love yourself, not just like love other people? Because use yourself as the basis. I don't know what you love. I don't know what you love. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to think, what do I like? I like when people are nice to me. I like when people smile at me. I like when people don't spend my money on nonsense. I like it when people don't curse me out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use myself as the way to figure out what other people need. V'ahavta l'recha kamocha. Love them like you love yourself. Rashi says, by the way, as a side point, this is the mitzvah of having good self-esteem. Because you have to love other people like you love yourself. If you don't love yourself, you're not going to love anybody else, right? Nachon, makes sense? So he actually says that's the mitzvah to have good self-esteem. If you think you're garbage, everybody else is going to be garbage in your eyes. People who treat other people badly usually hate themselves in some way.
What if you are the type of person that loves others more than you love yourself?
Okay, that's a very, very good question. Loving other people more than love yourself. This is also problematic. You should be like yourself. I believe this is implicit in the pasuk as well. Loving other people more than yourself means you become, unfortunately, what my wife would call a shmata. Meaning, you treat yourself badly, you don't take care of yourself physically, emotionally, spiritually, it's not going to work. You're going to become codependent on those other people. All you're going to try to do is make other people happy the whole time, and that's impossible. I have some news. If you're getting married in a couple of months, B'ezrat Hashem, inshallah, God willing, B'ezrat Hashem, you can't make your husband happy. I know. He's going to have to work on it himself. You can be there for him, and you can give your love to him. You have that ability, and I'm going to tell you how to do that. But ultimately, he's on your own, and you're on your own, and you're going to realize that very, very soon. It's a big statement. Yeah, kind of hits you like a brick. By the way, what is love? We're talking about this thing called love. What is it exactly? Anyone know what is love? We're talking about it. We sing about it. Everyone wants to fall in love, don't they? We want to fall in love. Have you been in love before? Yeah, definitely. God, how depressing. There's different types of love. There's love with family members, love of friends. Yeah. By the way, there's 3 groups of people you're meant to love, by the way. You know there's 3? The Torah itself pulls 3 groups out from all the others. Who are they? The ger, the convert, the yatom, the orphan, and the almanah, the widow. Why are those 3? Why are those 3 and everyone else? Why are those 3 pulled out more than anybody else? They're vulnerable in what way? They're not weak. They can be very strong. They could be very rich. What are they lacking?
They don't have emotional foundation.
They don't have emotional support. They've lost their spouse. They have no parents. Right? They have no family because the person converts to Judaism. Well, now, everyone's converted to Judaism, because that's how you get a good job. But it used to be converted to Judaism, basically you lost your job, you lost your family, you lost everything. Right? So what are we told to do? You have to love them. Well, how do you love them? They're like, oh, little Timmy. Do you have any parents? No, they died. Hey, come, give me a hug, I love you. And walk off. That's it, that's the mitzvah? No. How do you fulfill the mitzvah of love? What we're going to see over here. So let's just look at the word itself. I didn't mention this last week. The word for love is ahava, and ahava means have is to give. To give. If you give somebody something, you will love them. You will love them. Therefore, if you want to fall in love with your husband, all of you, you give. Will he love you? Maybe yes, maybe no. It depends if he's giving or not.
So sad.
It's not sad, it's the truth. It takes work. A lot of work. Tremendous amount of work. It's so difficult. Oh my God. I once did a seminar on relationships 2 years ago. And it was about marriage, relationships. I was telling jokes as I usually do, because at the expense of my, wife. So I'm telling these, and a girl comes up, she goes, Rabbi, at the end, she goes, can I speak to him? She goes, can I ask you a personal question? I'm like, yeah. She's like, are you in a bad marriage? I'm like, no, why do you ask? Because you keep making jokes and laughing about it and saying how difficult it is. I'm like, that's a good one. That's a good one. And she just couldn't get it. She was my student. She was an NCSY advisor. And she got married, had kids. She came and she goes to me, I get it. It's hard work. Very hard work because you've got to give. It's constant giving. The more you give, the more you love. You also have to give to yourself, though, right? If you just constantly give to other people, then you're not going to love yourself. How do you love yourself? You give to yourself. You've got to take care of yourself emotionally, physically, spiritually. It takes a lot of effort to do that. Yeah. Let's have a look at the chinuch. He said, how do you fulfill this? He goes, I'll tell you what, respect other people. Don't steal from them. Don't take their wives or their husbands. Don't even flirt with their wives or their husbands. I've added that on, by the way. That's my commentary. Don't defraud them of money. Right? If you love someone, you're not going to take their money. Don't insult them. Don't trespass on their property. Don't cause them any damage in any way. We now have a list of how to fulfill this mitzvah. I call that pretty giving, right? It's right there, in black and white, the Sefer HaChinuch. He gave the reasons for the mitzvot. That's how to do it. Says the smug, Sefer Mitzvah Gadol. Imagine a person sitting, imagine you see me at home cutting a piece of meat. Right? Watching me cut a piece of meat. And as I'm cutting the meat, you see me cut my hand. Oi! And then you see me do this. Stupid hand. Why'd you do that? What would you think? This guy's gone a little bit. Or you see me walk down the street and I trip on my right foot. And then you see me kick my right foot with my left foot. What would you think? This guy, this rabbi, I don't know what he's smoking, but I want some. You think this guy's completely crazy? Why? Because it's me. See, it says, and it's especially true in marriage. How can I hurt someone else? Because this is me. We're Am Echad. We're one couple. We're one people. We're in this together. So the idea of hurting someone else is ridiculous. Hating someone because I'm actually hating
Yourself.
myself. That's what the smug says. Isn't that a beautiful piece of Torah? Wow. Wow, we were. Kabbalah Zman. Kabbalah Zman. Okay. Here's a very deep idea. Remember Hillel, when he was asked, what did he say? He could have said, love others like you love yourself to the convert. What did he say? What did he say? Well, you hate, don't do other people. It's kind of the flip side of love other people like you love yourself. Why did he do it that way? What was his point by saying that? Why didn't he just quote the pasuk from the Torah? Fair question, right? Not my question. I'm not that smart. The Maharsha asked that question. And he says, what is hateful to you? This refers to that which is written in the Torah. Love other people like you love yourself. That's what he meant. But he did the negative, not the positive. We can ask why Hillel altered the mitzvah by phrasing it in the negative. Right? That's the question we have. Are you with me, sisters? Yeah? Yes, Rabbi?
Yes.
Good, we're awake. The answer is, the mitzvah itself is a type of prohibition, just like the other mitzvot in the verse. Don't take revenge. Don't bear a grudge. Right? They're in the negative. This is also negative. Meaning what? Why is that a negative? Don't take revenge. Don't bear a grudge. Love other people like you love yourself. That's also a negative. Why is that? It's a positive. Love other people like you love yourself. Why is that a negative? The Hillel says, let me explain what it actually means. So Hillel was actually explaining, well, loving other people like you love yourself. I mean, this is a very deep idea, but it's related to what you asked me a moment ago. You want to try to guess why love other people like you love yourself is actually a mitzvah lo taseh? Or it's limiting it?
Maybe if he was telling a convert to love others as he loves himself, he might take it too legitimately. And like legitimately and
not legitimately. I know you're trying to say, take it too
literally.
That's my American accent. Literally. I like saying that with American accent. Is that convincing? Yes! Literally. Meaning what? Look what he says. You see, the answer is that the mitzvah itself is a type of prohibition like other mitzvot, meaning that you can't love everyone like you love yourself. There's got to be a limit. What is that called in Judaism? What's that called? Anybody? Chayecha kodmin. Your life comes first. You come first. Let me give you the classic example that Rabbi Kiva paskined on. And actually the halacha follows Rabbi Kiva. Listen to this. You're walking through a desert with your best friend. And you have one bottle of water, right? You have this case? And it's your water. And if you drink it all, you survive. If your friend drinks it all, they survive. If you split it, you both die, but at least your life will be a little bit longer. If you pour it away, you both die. What do? It's a machloket. It's actually a machloket in the Gemara. The halacha is very clear though. So you would think, well, I give my friend some because, I love my friend. And the answer is no, you must drink that water. You are not allowed. He said, but it's not fair. It happens to be I have water. Okay, you can philosophically say maybe it was Min Hashemayim that I had the water and my friend didn't have the water. That's all Min Hashemayim, right? You can assume that's the way it happened. I don't know. Think of something there. But in the end, Chayecha Kodmin. Your life takes precedence. That's what the Maharsha says. So he said in the negative to say, there's a limit. Don't overdo it. Don't be a sucker. Don't be, as we say in Hebrew, a frayer. There's a limit. You can't love everyone. Right? You have concentric circles. You start, just like in the laws of tzedakah, you start with your family. Then it goes to your community. Then the community in Eretz Yisrael. Then the general community. It goes in like little outward, like a archery board or a dartboard. You have to start in and then you work your way out. You can't love everyone the same way. You can't walk around the streets hugging people. That is disgusting.
You should love everyone, but have a limit with everyone.
It's a limit. Maybe not a limit with everyone. Some people you should love more. It's different limits.
Yeah.
You should love your husband more than you love other people. That's okay. That's okay.
This might sound very cynical, but what if a person doesn't deserve your love?
That's not cynical. That's common sense. Some people don't. Let's be honest. Some people, they don't treat you well.
What if someone doesn't deserve your love?
How do you decide that?
I mean, like, I think you can understand if somebody has like bad intentions or like they don't care for you, or like
If you think they're threatening you or speaking lashon hara against you or they're hurting you emotionally, financially, then first we have to speak to them and tell them, don't do that to me. But if your words are going to be for nothing, right, then you're allowed to protect yourself. Right? There's no mitzvah. Again, chayecha kodmin, if someone's coming after you with a gun, then I'm like, well, I can't kill them because then they're dead. Right? And it's either me or them, and we're both the same. The answer is no. You're allowed to defend yourself. Why are you allowed to defend yourself? What? I don't get it. They want to kill you, so you're going to kill them. Why is that fair? Just think about it. Just don't kill them, and if you die, you die. And the answer is no. You're allowed to defend yourself. Allowed to defend yourself. Your life takes precedence. If a woman is pregnant and her life is threatened, her physical life and potentially even her mental life is majorly threatened, the child is considered a rodef, considered a killer, and you're allowed to abort the baby. We have that. Is that a pleasant thing? Not at all. Is it a big decision? Very big. It's not a light decision. We're not, in American society, everyone's discussing this, especially now. We're not like on the far right, far left. Right? It's still asur to do. But there's occasions when the child is a rodef, you're allowed to protect yourself. Chayecha kodmin. Once the baby starts to crown, then it's 50-50. Then it has the same right to life as you have. Then it gets more difficult. But until that point, the halacha is very, very clear. Not everyone gets the same treatment over here. Give tzedakah. You have the same treatment over here. Right? Your people come first. That's okay. And by the way, all nations do that. All nations want to give to their own nation. We should be proud of that. We shouldn't be embarrassed of that reason. We should be proud that you're willing to live that life. But not everyone deserves your absolute love. Doesn't mean you can hurt them, but there's a limit, there's a gvul. Some people sap your energy. There are people out there like that. We all know people like that. You know the people? You ever read Harry Potter? I know it's all the movies, I probably should have. My kids watch some of them. There's like the Dementors. Do you ever see them? Yeah. They like suck your energy out of you. They like suck it out of you. Like when you're around them, you get all depressed and horrible. So limit your contact with those people.
So can I ask a follow-up?
Please.
So that goes back to like holding a grudge. If you know somebody doesn't deserve your love, and then they've done things to harm you, doesn't that give you a right to hold a grudge and how to make you feel? Not necessarily hold a grudge, but maybe make you just
well,
bitter.
It's a little bit problematic. You're absolutely. If someone does something to you, it gets tricky because there's another pasuk we're going to talk about in the future, or maybe today actually, called Lo tisnat chicha. Don't hate your fellow in your heart. By the way, notice it said v'havta l'recha kamocha. Love your reya. What's a reya? Your friend. V'havta l'recha kamocha. And if they don't act like your reya, you don't have to love them. That is the implication of that. They don't act like one. This mitzvah does not apply to them. The Rambam goes even further. The Rambam says if they don't act like a real Jew, you shouldn't. But nowadays, most people, they don't even know what Judaism is, so we're not really, I'm saying, they're not really going against Judaism. They just grew up with no Judaism whatsoever. But if they act like an animal, if you know they're a disgusting individual, like, well, Rabbi said to love everyone like you love yourself. I hang out with them. No, it's crazy. Yeah. Hurting other people is a terrible avera. Look what the Gemara says. This is the Gemara. It says Yerushalmi, and it says, according to Rabbi Yossi ben Chanina said, page 5, one who glorifies themselves by denigrating and putting others down has no share in Olam Haba. Wow, that's big stuff. No share in Olam Haba. En lo chelek Olam Haba. It's like you're removing your own Olam Haba. Now, what Olam Haba actually means, we have to discuss. But let's just say it's the ultimate reward for all your actions, positive and negative. And you've removed those actions because you put out. How do you lift yourself up? By putting other people down. Hashem don't like that one. Hashem don't like that. Hashem, you get away with a lot of bad stuff against Hashem, which we all do. As long as we're nice to other people. As long as we are nice and sweet to other people.
Is it okay if it's fake?
Is it okay if it's fake? Yes! Oh my God.
It's not ideal, but it's okay.
Sometimes it's even the ideal.
Because then you're holding it.
Yeah, here. Again, this passive aggressive, something I need to work on. Because I can't get angry, I'm a rabbi. I just get passive aggressive with people, sarcastic sometimes. There's room for improvement there, Kimber.
I asked because you always say when you're davening, it's okay if you're faking it a little bit. So if you have to fake being nice to someone to bury in anger.
Sometimes you have to, yeah. Sometimes you can. It's okay to put on a smile, to do something just in order to not cause a fight or to, yeah. That's because your face, we mentioned last week, is Reshut HaRabim. It's the public domain. We said it, remember? Did we say that in this class? I said it somewhere in the past 7 days. Your face does not belong to you. It's Reshut HaRabim. You do know that, right? It's a very important Jewish concept. Yeah. I mean, you all looked in the mirror today? At some point? I'm sure you did. I did too. Alright? How long? I don't know, a minute? A couple of minutes maybe? Look at yourself, brush your teeth, right? What a horrible sight that is. But you've been looking at my face longer than you look at your own face today. Isn't that weird? So my face belongs to you, and your face belongs to me and everybody else. So who am I to walk around with a sourpuss face, right? Knowing full well that I'm making your day bad. What making your day bad? It's not fair. So I'm having a bad day. All right, don't stick it on me, sister. Don't rub it off on me. I don't want to deal with that. So sometimes you got to put on a smile. Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes you got to lift yourself up, but baby, that's maybe the way it's got to be. They have to recha kamocha.
It means right? Sometimes. Why not all the time? I'm just wondering.
Okay, maybe it means all the time, but it's tough. It's very, very tough. It's very, very tough.
Maybe if somebody doesn't deserve your love, and you don't have to force it.
Sometimes, yeah, I don't know.
I feel like it's better to not suppress your emotions.
Sometimes suppress. We're not saying suppress. You have to. Very good. That's a good question. Are we saying suppress your emotions? You're upset. You're frustrated. Bury it down. You should speak to that person.
Okay.
Tell them why you're upset. Never publicly. What they did to you. Don't talk to me like that. Don't act that way. That's not suppressing your emotions. I told you a story about Tversky. I told you that story about the nunnery. Did I mention that story last week? Good. I'll tell it to you now. So Rabbi Tversky was one of my role models and gurus. Wrote many, many books, psychiatrist. So there was a convent, a nunnery near where, about an hour and a half away from where he was, his psychiatric kind of area. Gateways it was called. And they wanted a psychiatrist who was a God believer. He was a Hasidic rabbi. He became a psychiatrist, Dr. MD. So he sent him to him. So one of the nuns made an appointment to see him. She was an alcoholic and stuff. She was dealing with stuff. So he forgot the appointment. This is pre-cell phones. She turns up. He wasn't there. She waits an hour and a half, and goes home. It takes her an hour and a half to get there. Waits an hour and a half to go home. Half the day's gone. He realizes, calls her up and says, let's rebook the appointment. They rebook, she turns up. As she turns up, he turns around to her and says, I'd like to apologize. She says, no! You don't need to apologize. I have forgiven you. And I said, yeah, but I should have written it down. I want to. He goes, no, doctor, rabbi, you don't need to apologize to me. It's all good. I forgive you from my heart. He's like, no. I need to apologize. You need to be upset, and then you can forgive me. That's the way it works. That's how relationships work. That's how things function. It's okay to say, I'm upset. You're allowed to say, you know what, don't do that to me. Because what you've done is buried it deep down. And maybe that's why you're taking to alcohol and drugs, because you're not letting the emotions out. So you're burying them deep down by self-medicating on all these terrible substances. You hear? You get it. He says, let it out, you got to say it. And then, as a good person, you should forgive. That's the way people function. That's normal, healthy behavior. You're going to do it with your kids. Oh, you're going to do it with your kids. You're going to be upset with them. No, I wouldn't shout at my kids. Just you wait, sisters. Woo! They're going to have to hear it from you. And that is good. I went to a therapist friend of mine, Liz Weinstein, great therapist. And I said, what's the best thing you do for your kids? Just to bring up good, healthy kids. You know what she said? This is the best thing you could do for your kids.
Say no.
Say no. Say no. I'm like, all I do is say yes and give them everything. I don't know. You know what? My wife says no. At least that one of us, that's what she ever says. I'm like, yeah, give me a hug. I want to just hug, kiss them, and give them all my money. I don't know. I need more stuff. Just don't shout. Let me sleep, please. 1 a.m, just take my money. I don't care. Just leave me with a wallet at least, so I can, pretend I have some left. Says the Rambam in the laws of conduct. By the way, is Hilchot Deyot, the laws of conduct, and that chapter is in the same book, Mishnah Torah, that has all the other mitzvot in it. So this is like, it's not like, we're not discussing feel-good Judaism. We're talking about what you're expected to do. He says it in the mitzvah upon every Jewish person to love each member of the Jewish people as much as you love yourself. Therefore, speak. Now, for some reason, people misinterpret this. Speak well of other people. Speak well of them. If someone says to you, what's Madeline? Someone says to you, what's Kimberly? Fabulous. She is, honestly, she's great. She's such a lovely girl. Some people think for some reason that you shouldn't praise other people. Have you heard that before?
Yes.
Have you heard that before? That's only in the laws of Lashon Hara. When you know the person you're speaking to doesn't like that person, and they're going to speak bad about them. That's what it means. And you shouldn't overpraise a person in front of them. That we know as well. But someone asks what someone's like, say they're wonderful, lovely, wonderful, amazing person. Right? If you know they're not have nothing against them, right? Then it's okay. Are you with me?
What if you don't know?
You say I don't know. You have to lie.
No, I'm saying, what if you don't know if someone likes another or not?
Oh, make an assumption they do. You can make an assumption. We finished, is that it? 9:45. It's late. Why make it quieter? We're learning Torah.
I think another class finished.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Love of people. Oh, very, very. Okay, got it. Let's just jump to page 6. Okay. So what's the opposite of, well, it's actually not the opposite. I used to think it was the opposite. It's not. What's the opposite of love? No, I thought it was. It's what? It's apathy, not caring, yeah. Right, if someone says, I hate you, what I mean is, I love you, but you really annoy me. Right? But if someone's apathetic, if a couple comes sit down with me, and they're shouting and screaming, you're like, oh, that's terrible. I'm like, there's room for improvement, at least they're communicating terribly. And by the way, all couples communicate terribly, at least for the first year or 10. But that's the truth. But if they sit there and haven't spoken in 6 months, then we're in trouble. Because they're apathetic towards each other. However, hatred is a big problem. Hatred, obviously, is still the anti-love. Having sinah, having hatred towards other people. Okay? So what is the problem of hating somebody else? Of holding a grudge, taking revenge, and all these other things that build up? We know that every case of galut comes from hatred. Hatred causes galut. Okay, we know very famously from the Beit HaMikdash, right? It was sinat, chinam. Right, we talk about Tisha B'Av, that led to the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. Right. What was the reason for the first destruction, the first Beit HaMikdash, the first temple? Gilui riots, sexual immorality, avodah zarah, idol worship, and shvichut damim, murder. The rabbis learn, therefore, that hating other people is equal to those three, because those three destroyed the first Beit HaMikdash, and hatred destroyed the second Beit HaMikdash. Must be, it's bad, like really bad.
You need the three things.
Yes, the three was called the three cardinal sins. They're actually called the things yarog v'lo yavor. A person should give their life up rather than do. And they are avodah zarah, idol worship, shvichut damim, murder, and avodah zarah. I said that already. Idol worship and
Sexual relations.
yes, gilui rayot, forbidden sexual relationships.
Isn't it only murdering another Jew?
Is it only? Well,
I heard it is.
potentially yes. However, it's still asur just to kill anybody. Right? Still asur to kill anybody. But over here, in terms of that, yeah.
But if someone says kill this non-Jew or I'm gonna kill you, aren't you supposed to kill that non-Jew? That's what I learned you are supposed to.
The only problem with that is, technically you're right, potentially. However, there's a problem, and that is if it causes the deaths of others by you doing that, then it's a problem. Okay? Then it's a problem. Yeah. If it's going to end up causing, that's why you are only allowed to be Mechala Shabbat for saving a Jew's life, right? But Hatzalah don't say, are you Jewish or not Jewish? Because at least we've seen a hatred and it's going to end up causing a lot more damage for us. So technically you're right, but there's other ramifications that come with it. That's why Hatzalah on Shabbat doesn't say, hello, Jewish ambulance service, prove you're Jewish. What's this week's parasha? I mean, most Jews wouldn't even know anyway, to be honest with you. So. Awkward. Okay, so that's what hatred does. Hatred leads to galut. In every case of galut that we've seen in Jewish history, somehow, lack of love, too much hate has been the culprit that leads to it. Why and how? So, let's do a little bit of Kabbalah. Look at the Balatanya. And he says, bottom of page 7, that really, if you understand the love we're talking about soul love. You have to love someone with your soul. How do you do that? We've spoken about things you're meant to do. But Hillel was describing this thing as something where you feel this connection to somebody, that the idea of hurting them is absurd because you see and you feel their neshama. You feel their soul is inside them. That's what it's really talking about. Okay? You're not just loving the physical, that's a way for you to get into their spiritual. Can we do one last piece and then we'll finish?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I want to just do one more pasuk and then a very famous Ramban and we'll finish with this. The pasuk in the Torah is a very strange pasuk. It's on page 8. The pasuk is in Devarim, the end of the Torah, and it says, Vayasita hayashar va'atov b'nei Hashem. You should do what is straight and good in the eyes of God, lamani tavlach, so that it'll be good for you. So there's now a mitzvah to do what is fair and good. Yashar v'tov. What is that? What is that mitzvah? What do I do? I don't understand what it means. The Ramban says, this mitzvah to do what is fair and good is actually following a verse that says you have to keep all the mitzvot. So the pasuk says, listen carefully, keep all the mitzvot, and it says, oh, and do what is fair and good. Well, what's that? If you're already told me to keep all the mitzvot, what is this fair and good telling me to do? Anyone know?
You don't need to keep all the mitzvot.
What?
like do what's fair for you. You don't need to keep all the
No, I have to keep all the mitzvah.
Your
That's a given.
intentions, your intentions.
Intentions are there as well with all the mitzvah. You should have good kavanah.
You're supposed to learn like an underlying principle from a mitzvah and then like use that to apply it to your life.
Exactly. That's the Ramban.
This is my class.
Says the Ramban.
Tuesday.
You did? Wish you were doing this.
My bike class.
Says the Ramban. The Torah cannot give you every scenario, every situation. You're in the supermarket, you're in traffic. You got to figure it out. What is this mitzvah telling you? Have common sense. Well, you don't know the common sense. Not so common. You meant to figure out what to do. The Torah gives you the mitzvah, but then it stops and says, now, based upon this, figure out how to apply it in every situation. So there is a mitzvah to do as very good, meaning figure out how to be nice to other people in ways that are not mentioned in the Torah. Because if you just follow what they call the 11th commandment, they call it, right? That's what they used to call it. You got to figure out how to be good to other people. Use your ingenuity. That's what the Ramban's telling us. Even regarding matters which I have not explicitly commanded you, make sure to do what is good in the eyes of God. What does God want from me in this scenario? It doesn't say in the Torah that I can't cut someone up in traffic. Does it say that in the Torah? No. There's no cars there. So who says I can't do it? You can figure it out. Right? Try your best. I shouldn't get that example because I cut people up in traffic, but you get the idea, okay? The Torah does always specify the proper context for many situations, but not all situations, says the Ramban, and therefore, figure it out. Figure out ways to love other people, figure out ways not to hate, and figure out ways to be a good person in as many situations as possible. V'afta, l'recha, kamocha. Very good. Kol hakavod. Thanks for being here. We'll pick this up next week, B'ezrat Hashem.
What's next week's topic?
Surprise.
Next week's topic is surprise?
Next week is a surprise. It's such a big surprise, even I don't know yet. Okay. It could well be giving benefit of the doubt. I think it's going to be the following for this one. If I can get my stuff together and make that happen, B'ezrat Hashem. I can do it. Thank you for believing in me.